starts at 4. Get to say.
Well, so that Preston, to kind of go full circle, so he's certified in Aimpoint, which, have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Aimpoint's basically just physics. It's just like a 10-foot putt on a 10 stimp, which is a certain speed, at 2 degrees right to left is going to break objective amount.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Right? So it's like, so Preston is super versed in that math.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons he works with so many successful D1 programs, because he's just like, he's a resource there. But yeah, I just, you know.
I mean, Canotech could, but I mean, the Canotech assessment isn't going to, unless he's putting them into a position that's pre-programmed in there. If putting isn't a position that's pre-programmed in there.
No.
So if
that's what he was kind of struggling with a little bit.
Yeah, they have a golf swing in there.
And that's why I was trying to tell him, like, he should, I was like, maybe I should get certified and then start screening your LPGA students that come through. Ultimate. Down in Kissimmee. He's right here. And yeah, like, he's definitely, he's got, Preston's Putting is his name.
Cool.
It's a nice table. Super nice table.
Oh, hey, we did the same thing.
Best design, like my favorite design of a product, I think, in the last 10 years. It went like iPhone and then the iPhone holding tripod.
Yes.
Just both perfect products.
I haven't tried the remote on it yet, though.
It's perfect.
Is it?
Yeah. No, and that's one reason that I,
Because my FRAs, I've been trying to cut my FRA time down, because like when I first started doing FRAs, it took me 3 hours. And most students know that. He goes, they will in the beginning. He goes, because you're just so like trying to, now I just know how to go in and find everything.
I believe that.
But the back end work is the thing that takes the most amount of time for me. And so I was like, how can I reduce the back end time? And it was like, oh, you remote from my phone so that it just, when I tell it to take a picture, it'll just take a picture.
Yeah.
Because as of right now, I do videos, and then those videos, I then edit the pictures.
You got to chop them up, and it's, yeah.
Yes, which takes long. Instead of just being able to upload pictures themselves.
I have an idea. It would actually work for FRIs the same way for golf, for recording golf, where, like, you know how a dash cam works, where it's always recording, and then if something happens, you just go back and. So you could probably set a video recording app that is like listening for the sound of impact. Mm-hmm. So you just set it and it's recording, and then you hit your shot, and it basically just reverse engineers like 5 seconds before the shot, 3 seconds after the shot, deletes everything else. Because every time, like, I'll make a video of 9 holes, and you end up with so much, raw video, and it takes up storage.
Talking to Hunter about all the videos I have.
Yeah.
Of FRAs.
Oh, tell me about it. It's organization of content is crucial as just in any walk. It's so important. So how do you stay organized? You just like what do you do? Just on the fly?
Google Drive folders. So I had once I get done with you tonight, I'll put everything into a Google Drive folder and then hopefully remember to delete it off quickly.
Cool. Do I have access to that folder?
Yeah, after you're done, you literally get the folder, you get your Canotech assessment, you get your cards forms, recording forms,
really
and then
cool.
a write-up that I do on it.
That's
yes, sir,
really cool.
No? So what'd you have for lunch?
You didn't have tacos?
What'd you have for lunch? What'd you eat? You don't know what you ate?
Just whatever.
What'd you eat? Alright, lay down on your bed.
too young to fast. Well, that narrows it down. That sucks because tacos are delicious. I love tacos.
I'm gonna move you over a little bit because I need to be straight on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move you
All good.
there. My thinking music. I need you to be my assistant.
Mhm.
So other hand. Here you go. I say hit the button, hit the button.
Got you.
All right. I don't need to see this, but I just want to see one. Yeah, you're good. Okay. Let's look at shoulder rotation real quick.
Okay.
I love you. Good. Go ahead and hit the button for me, please. Up. Give me the remote. Thank you. And then I want you to actively move it into shoulder IR as far as you can. I'm going to be right here holding the elbow just to make sure it's in the same spot. Keep that scap down. Move internal rotation of the shoulder. Good. Back up again. So we've got a good amount of passive. So the system's got the tissue right here.
Mm-hmm.
You're not playing down here though with your work.
Nope. No, I don't train anything there really.
Yeah, so that's the problem. Okay. If you don't train it, don't expect to have it. Okay. So there's plenty there to use. Okay. Let me look at these hips.
Would I train it by like loading it with a weight and just failing this way and then like bringing it back up and?
No, you would do the other way.
Okay.
So you'd start at the bottom.
So this way, and I would load it this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. See, and that's right where I feel like I am with all this stuff. I feel like I kind of understand the concepts, but sometimes I feel like I do the opposite of.
Yeah. Yeah, plenty of flexion there. Good. I want to see something. All right. Go ahead and actively move it into hip flexion. Remember, linear. Good. What are you trying to do? You're trying to throw that at data, huh? Yeah, so passive to abduction, no problem. We're good there. Let's see where we go. Actively from hip flexion now as opposed to straight leg. Okay?
You want me to do it?
Yeah, please. With control. Pause. So I want you to think of this like a gate that opens.
Like a dog.
Not a hip that's externally rotated.
Okay. Got you.
Linear into the frontal plane.
Got you.
Stay there. Relax. See how much more?
Yeah.
Again, we got to plan in ranges. Okay.
Got you.
Flip over onto your stomach. I'm going to do shoulder external. Go ahead.
We got to play within ranges.
Hey!
Yeah, no, technology's sick when it works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when it doesn't, you're like, dude.
You're like, no, but
When I did the keynote, it was somehow zoomed in on 9x. So I didn't like. Here's the deal.
Pain in the shoulder?
No, none at all.
Good. So we're going to start at 90.
Okay.
Okay. And then I want you to actively move in the shoulder external whenever you're ready.
Okay.
pretty big active and passive deficit there.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see shoulder extension. Alright, let's see it in action. That one again.
Do it again. All right.
Keep that palm up. There we go. Going, let me know when you're there. There you go. Nice. Better. Good. Alright, relax. Move the arm. You go more, but your knees have to come out. Good. Actively flex the knee. Feel like that hamstring's gonna cramp?
Yeah. That's so funny. Like almost immediately, like right there. It's
Right
like
there.
it's
Yeah, and I mean,
it wants to cramp.
Just stay relaxed.
Woo! Yeah. So
Yeah,
that
you gotta
cramping, how do I work on that cramping?
You have to live it in range, man. You
Okay.
gotta start doing something in range.
Okay.
It looks like that's the missing link in your training right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Come up on all fours for me. I'm gonna move the pillow all to the end of the table here. Alright, and then I need you to relax. I'm gonna pull you back in, basically in the collapse quadriped. Okay. So good. Sit in front of the heel. Good. Forearms up. See how much. Good job. Good. Active hip. And go. 0. Good. Back on your back for me. You lost your microphone. You on the back? Yeah. Yeah, we're still good. Oh, this one. Push the button when I tell you to.
Mhm.
Oh, I'll stuff it on this side. Go ahead and hit that button for me, please. Good. And me remote back. Thank you, assistant. All right.
Mhm.
Now, starting at 0, moving into as much active IR as you can give me. And go. Good. Relax. I want you to feel we still got a pretty big deficit there.
Mhm.
Okay. Linear on this hip. Good. Remember, stay linear. Don't externally rotate. Show me hip flexion. Good. So let's come back. We went right into external rotation. So I want you feeling like you're moving the medial aspect of your patella
Okay.
in towards your linea alba.
Okay. Woo. Oh, it's
Good. Don't let it deviate. Good.
oh,
That's
that
hip
was
flexion.
so crampy.
That's hip
Really,
flexion.
really.
The other one is hip
I don't
flexion.
even have
with
it.
External rotation.
I'm doing it this way.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Okay.
rolling out and
Correct.
pulling.
Yeah,
And,
so you're going external rotation for hip flexion. I just want whatever my linear hip flexion is.
and when I do it, this whole thing was cramping.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't check on the other side. Let me check. Relax. Good. And go ahead and show your leg rest. Keep it in center. Good. Good. Down. I won't move the camera. So still tell me what I need to know. Good. And then actively. Yeah, I didn't see anything that was wrong there. Good. Good. Alright, see what we got here. Good. All right. Remember, we're swinging a door open. We're not externally rotating a hip. Not the same thing. Okay. On your leg. Good. Nice. Again, pretty big active passive deficit.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Flip over onto your stomach. Woo! Fine, so let me add this in this.
They won't let you?
Well, most of my clients don't want to listen to folk rock when they're working out.
I guess.
Okay.
I don't mind it at all. I never listen to this, and it's cool.
Whenever you're ready, actively try and externally rotate that shoulder. Good. A whole lot more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Relax. For your shoulder extensions. Demonstrate it. Go back up one more time for me. Good. Hold right there. Good. And down.
That was all crampy.
Mm-hmm. Take the knee on this side. Relax. My legs. Give it back when I'm done.
Okay.
Good. Demonstrate it actively for me. Crampy?
Crampy.
Up on all fours. We're going to do 2 things here. We'll go collapse quadruped hip extension, and then we're also going to do some spine. Good.
So this locks my hip in?
Yep. This is a Modi special. Relax on it.
Woo! It's my adductor is like.
Plenty of passive there. See it actively. And all right, let's come up on all fours. No, you're there. You're right in the same spot. Good. I know it's not very comfortable on the wrist, but it'll do the job for now.
This massage table was like the nicest one ever.
Okay, so, big thing here is I want to see as much spine flexion as you can give me, but I don't want any movement in your pelvis.
Okay.
Okay, so relax. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold your pelvis here.
Okay.
And now I want you to flex everything from the thumbs up. Pause. Trying to move your pelvis. Feel how it's getting tight in my hands right here?
Okay.
Okay, so no movement underneath this girdle right here. Just move the spine itself, okay? Yep. If you got more, get more. If not, that's where you're at. Good. And now give me extension, same thing. No movement here, as much as you can give me. Good. Now, all the way back up again into as much flexion as you can give me. Good. Pause. Don't move right there. Good. And then extension one more time.
With cervical?
Good. Everything you can give me in your spine. No movement here. There you go. No movement there. Good. Now stay there. Let's switch the video real quick. All right, so I'll let the pelvis move now. Go ahead and give me as much spine flexion as you can give me, all the way up. Good. Now starting at L5, I want you to work into extension. L5, L4, L3, L2, L1, S, or into your thoracic spine. There you go. Good. Good control. Keep going. You got more. You have more teeth.
All the way up.
Right there. Good. Give me one more rep. All the way up. Don't have to worry about slow up. Just get up there. Good. And then one more, starting at that lumbar spine. L5, S1 first. Then L4, L3, L2, L1, T12, T11, T10 in your head. You're cascading through each vertebra. Good. On your back. What I need is somebody to make a tripod that I can like just attach it to.
Oh, the Joby.
Is that what it's
Joby
called?
Gorilla Pod. Yeah, it's sick. I'll show you. You could set one right there and just leave it.
Yeah, but that's what I need. Because when I do this part,
You have everything you need. You could have a sick overhead view.
All right, so now for hip rotation here,
Uh-huh.
I'll need you to assist and just hold the leg in place. We'll do that with a strap whenever I get it.
Okay.
Foot up. Cool. Let me get my phone out first. Hate to make you wait holding it in IR.
All right.
Grab with the opposite hand. Hold it right there. Good. Let go of the strap. Keep the knee bent at 90. Good. Active IR. Pause. You're moving your entire pelvis right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Good. Come back. Last one. Go. Better. There we go. So I don't know if you've ever heard me use the analogy of a spoon, nut bowl.
No.
Spoon, nut bowl. Spoon, bowl. I want you to move the spoon, not the bowl. Okay? So when we're moving the hip through external and internal rotation, I want you to imagine that you're eating cereal. Spoon moves through a bowl to eat cereal, right?
Yeah.
Bowl doesn't move because the spoon's moving it. How hard would it to be to eat if we were always, every time you move the spoon inside the bowl? So we can't have any pelvic movement, okay? We only want the femur only. That's fine. And, oh, that's awful. I mean, oh, hey, it's your hip. All right, left hand grab. Hold right there. All right, let it go. Relax. Drop it. Actively move it. Cool.
What was awful?
That external rotation. There was. I hit a wall pretty fast, pretty hard. Pretty hard, pretty fast. I got you. Relax for me right now.
It's gonna be worse on this side.
You would be surprised. Grab with that right hand. Good. Give it a nice tight squeeze and pull there. Perfect. Like I said, you'd be surprised. Okay, good. Let it go. Actively.
Spoon.
Uh-huh. Good. Good. You really like avoiding hip flexion.
Mm.
As soon as I ask you to go IR, you go, I'm going to move it out of the way so I can move it in.
Fuck.
See this? Like,
well,
this is what we call R2. So R1, R2 in tissue are your points of tension. Okay. It's just it's a manual therapist term.
right.
I shouldn't be getting R2 until I'm close to in range.
And R2 means what again?
That's
like
the
explain?
first point of tension in the tissue.
Okay.
Okay. I'm disorganized already. But I know there's more.
There's more, but it's gonna.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
this is where you get it really hurt.
Yeah. So. All right. Let it go. Good. Let it go. And now externally move it on your own. All right. Oops, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
All right, we're gonna do ankle, but we're gonna do box for ankle. I just want to see if we have a motor control ankle issue or if we have an actual ankle issue. All right, so you can come off the table and grab the box. Come to you. We're going right back to where we were. All right. So. I'll never find that again. All right, step on the side of the box for me. I know myself too well. Now stand up. I'm down here, you're standing. Cool. All right, so let's take your right foot, put it up in the box. Give me big toe extension on that side. Okay, relax. Relax for me.
Should this ball be on the ground?
You're good. No, you're. And down, and then actively trying to. All right, now remember. So, reminder on how your first ray works. This is your first ray, big toe. Okay, largest joint on the foot. Okay, if it is trapped, if this thing can't move, then this isn't going to move very well as a result. Okay. Remember, they have a very interconnected relationship. Okay. So ankle dorsiflexion is going to flow with big toe first. You are never going to find somebody who's got great big toe. Okay. I'm sorry. Inverse that. I will never find somebody with great ankle dorsiflexion and poor big toe. Okay. You're always going to have great big toe. Right. So big toe needs to be something. Okay. Big toe and the ankle and their interplay relationship with each other. This is a dominant. You ever heard of turf toe? Yeah. Turf toe is a bitch because of how much. It's like your thumb. Your thumb does 60% of the work on your hand. You lost your thumb, you lose 60% of the ability of your hand. Think about that. You have 5 digits. You would think that there's 20% split. This is 60% of the effort. Very similar down here. Yeah.
I know a guy with one thumb.
Yeah. I know a guy who was a kid that my brother played basketball with. All of his fingers were thumbs.
What? Did you see it?
Yes. Well, they were all shaped, but they all functioned like thumbs. They were all basically CMJ joints everywhere. So he was like this all the time. But he was a killer basketball player.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's go ankle dorsal. So I'm gonna go passive.
Okay.
Right? Because I'm actually gonna look for specific mechanics. Good. So let's back it up to a flat chin. I want you to give me a dorsiflexion lift off here. So just close that up. I want you to lift the midfoot up. There you go, as high as you can get it. As high as you can get it. Alright, now I'm gonna pull you forward. I'm gonna pull you forward. Maintain this. Don't fight my pull. Let me pull you forward, okay? Good. Relax right there. Put this right there. Cool. Release it. Big toe lift. A little better on that side. Relax. No, mine. Relax.
You're not allowed to sit in it either way.
Good. And then go ahead and give me the active lift
Jason,
down.
remember how I said it's bad for your body and it's bad for your brain?
Good. And down. Right. Same thing on that side.
And
Relax.
if your
I
friends
got
sit
you.
in school, you should tell them don't sit in it. And he has terrible posture.
Good. Give me ankle dorsey lift. Good. And then don't resist my pull, but maintain ankle dorsey. Good. Stay right there. Good. So one of the things, put your feet back up there. One of the things I want to bring to your attention. That's arthritis.
Yeah. No, I know this.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all. Let me know. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, get better big toe extension. Okay. Okay. Because part of what's happening is when I see you raise your big toe. So when you raise your big toe, when you do your active push off, it's going in like this. So when you do your raise, where's it going? In.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So we want it to be here. Remember, your brain only cares about your active range, doesn't give a shit about your passive range. And that's including the push off. So it's pushing off in, which means it's deviating this bone this way. Okay. So work on your big toe extension, and then also work on active big toe extension without adduction. So basically, just take a wedge here and put that down. You work on lifting this up. I'll lift it. Good. I feel where my block is.
So
Don't stop. I'm gonna let it go. Don't let it touch my hand.
Okay.
So it's basically like, yeah. So now I want you focusing on now. Try and tighten all the stuff as hard as you can. There you go, and then back. Okay. Okay. So just like we do with like if somebody's got really bad hip, when we do those parachuting motions where we'll lift them, we'll take them internal, we'll lift them, and I say, okay, hold it. And they're like, hold on. I'm like, move it as slow as you can, as slow as you can, as slow as you can. That's the first precursor to eventually getting control. It's a negative. Okay. All right, we're gonna do some cards, and then we'll. Let me wash my hands. Bigger ladder here. You gonna give me a hug before you go? Alright guys, so we're gonna do, I wanna see shoulder card,
Inside down.
I wanna see shoulder card, I wanna see scapular card, I wanna see, okay. All of those on one side, and then all of those shoulder card, one rep, and just your round. Scap card, and I wanna see your wide, down, six, okay. Set in external flexion, adduction, and right. So the ladder we go. That's what I want. Thank you. All right. So open palm. Remember, cross the body first, and show me your best shoulder.
do it again. Less of a triangle, more of a circle. So don't think I'm gonna hit this, and this. I want to see the circle. Okay. Do it again.
Adios, gentlemen.
Bye, love.
Nice to see you.
Bye, you too. Don't come back the way you came. One more. All right, scap. Nope, stand on the side. Everything on this right side first. Right. So, good. Good. Pause. Pause. And last one. Go. Yeah, very good. Cross. Take the other hand, hold the arm straight out in front of you like you're holding flowers for somebody. Hold it for your girl. You really want her. All right, that's it. We got left shoulder first. With scapula. Yeah. Those flowers. Yeah. So, one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my application of the system, and since I learned FRC in 2000 and oh my god, 6 years ago, 2018. One of the biggest ways that it's helped me learn the system is to understand, especially with cars, that bigger cars aren't better cars. Okay? The point of the car is a controlled articular rotation. The point of the car is not to show me your system, it's to show me that joint. That's one of the hardest lessons for all of us to learn, because we have this ingrained expectation that when I do a car, it's supposed to be a maximum expression of something. It is. It's a maximum expression of that joint. Problem is, it's just that joint. It's the deepest portion of the joint to the superficial aspects of that joint. So if I want my hip car, I don't want the entire pelvis to move as a result, or my lumbar spine to move as a result. If either of those things are happening while I'm doing my hip car, it's not my hip car anymore.
What if you do a hip car perfectly isolated, and it's like a greens ball?
Yeah.
And then if you do a hip car where you're using everything else, there's like a giant red ball, and then there's a green ball that's your pelvis. Like how much that work in that? And it's getting a little help, wouldn't it? Bring that range.
No, it doesn't. No, because you'll get the point, the purpose. When we look at strength and conditioning, we look at what's called, or any sort of adaptation physiologically, we're looking at the SAID principle. Specific adaptation to impose demands.
I haven't heard that.
Okay, that's specific. Okay, this is where a lot of what FRC was born from was the idea of we're not specific enough. We need to be more specific. If the system needs to adapt specifically, if I have a specific intent that I need, then I need to be inputting a specific input in there. If I just put general inputs in, I'm going to get general results from the inputs. Mm-hmm. So if I make this big old hip car that includes a bunch of other stuff, but my goal is to train the hip, I'm not training the hip. Okay? If my goal was to go into that and say, hey, I'm going to do a pelvic circular motion that includes the entire kinetic chain to better represent whatever my sport or adaptation is, maybe I'm a figure skater, who knows, okay? Then yes, absolutely. But again, it's about the intent. If I'm doing a hip car, the intent is to move the hip, not to add anything else. Because what's most likely occurring is that it doesn't move well on its own. So now I'm adding extra stuff to it. And when I'm adding extra stuff to it, that's when the problems are blowing me up, because those other things are doing stuff that they're not supposed to do. Think about the way the pelvis moves across your body. Like, it's not supposed to get these big, huge swings of rotation. That's why it has a hip. Okay? It's the same thing with the sternum. Like, very similar output in regards to how much rotation the sternum is supposed to do. Why it has this appendicular joint that can rotate well. Okay, it's supposed to rotate incredibly well. So when we start running into problems is when all of a sudden the sternum and the attachments have to start doing the rotation because it can't do the rotation. So when I write up your car's outline, you're gonna see me like you're pelvic shifting, lumbar flexing, you're doing all this extra stuff that's just completely unnecessary and is not going to be specific enough to improve the hips. So this is one of the things about cars, why practicing cars becomes a practice, like playing violin or, learning a martial art. It takes practice. I was telling a client this morning, he's 3 weeks in, he's like, man, am I ever going to get this? And I just started talking to people in the room that I trained, and I'm like, hey, how long did it take you to get hip car? How long did it take you to hip car? Marina, she's a freaking a former judoka world champion. She was an alternate on the Olympic team. The girl's a beast. Okay, she used her body. She's like, it took me 6 months. She's like 6 months before I actually felt like I'm just moving my hip. I'm not moving anything else. I've learned how to do it. I saw the same thing with your shoulder. Okay, I'm asking you to move the glenohumeral joint.
Yeah, and I just don't know what it is or something.
This.
Yeah.
And you're scapulothoracic like crazy. When you see the video, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to show you your scapula. I knew this was going to happen. That's why I had you do a scap card. Not because I didn't think your scap worked. You are just excessively using it in your shoulder card. So if you want your shoulder to get better, you want better external and internal rotation, you take the scapulothoracic out and start actually expressing the shoulder rotation. If I blocked your scap, you'd be fucked right now.
How do you block the scap?
You put the body into positions where it's almost impossible for it.
That makes sense.
Most level 3 cars are putting the body in a position where gravity is working maybe a little bit different, the vector of force is different, or we're now creating a more blocked position where it's much harder for you to add the scapula. Again, is there going to be modicums of help? Yes, you're not going to be completely eliminated. Anyone who tells you otherwise does not understand how joints work. But we want it to do the majority of the work if I'm intentionally moving it to do the majority of the work. If I can't, then that's a problem. The other big problem I saw through or opportunity I offer you is in-range training. It doesn't look like you're doing any in-range training.
Not really.
Okay. There's no.
I do.
There's no.
Strength training.
Yeah, right. But the problem is that you've got your link tension curve, and it's just getting steeper. So you're creating all of this, everything in the middle. Do you understand how the link tension curve works? Okay.
Yeah.
So you understand how the link tension curves and why we want to train in range, both sides of in range, because we want to train it at its fully flexed and its fully shortened position so that we can try to even it out. It's never going to perfectly even out. There's always going to be a curve that's associated with it. But what we see is most people at the 90 is like 10 times stronger than they are on the outsides. And you may do some eccentric training, but there is definitely no concentric in-range work that you're doing. Okay, there's nothing happening at like your in-range of shoulder IR to get control of in-range shoulder IR. Okay.
Is there a database of what a concentric movement is for a certain?
No, just go to where it can't go anymore. So IR is here. Okay, cool. Now I'm gonna try and contract it and leave it in that position. Passive range holds, passive range liftoffs. That's in-range training. Okay, isometrics, in-range training. Okay, yeah, no, not Pilsner House. No, you don't necessarily need to go through the 2 minute, the 1 minute, the rev, and everything in between. You need to actually get it to the in-range and train it there.
See, and that's one of the reasons I don't do end-range training is because my brain thinks that's what end-range training is. It's just Pilsner House. It takes a long time.
No, I mean I can work. You can work in range. Like let's go back to shoulder IR. Okay, cool. I'm gonna get here. I'm gonna hold and going back in again. That's in range training. Okay, exactly. But I don't want it to move. That's in range training. Okay, that's a way to clean up. I mean, if you have in range, if you have passive to active insufficiency, okay, which is what will be on the form. God's honest truth, you probably won't get that form until probably next week, to be honest with you. Because this week is completely foodard for me. I usually take 48 hours to give everything, but in 48 hours, I've got a bunch of friends coming to town. We're doing the nerd thing. I got MegaCon. I got a lot. But you'll get a whole report with everything. But like when you look at the flow chart, like normal joint function, ISM's on the bottom, but you're jumping the gun. We're jumping the shark. Can't go to ISM until you can demonstrate in-range control.
See, so what I've been doing is just doing strength training under my version of ISM for like 5 or 6 months, and it kind of works. I'm getting stronger.
Yeah.
And like bigger for sure.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. And when we're looking at the ISM, you from what you've told me about your ISM training, it sounds like we're doing a lot of stuff to failure. But remember, it doesn't need to all be to failure. Okay, tissue.
Because my only goal right now.
But hypertrophy isn't failure.
I thought it was failure at a minute 15 seconds.
It can be. Okay, it can be. Okay, I can also do shit under tension for a long period of time under tension, like 2-3 minutes to failure, and that's hypertrophy as well. So just doing it to failure at 1 minute isn't necessarily going to get the connective tissue architecture as a part of it as well. Okay, so I can go do swimmers to failure. Like go do prone swimmers to failure. It's going to go longer than 1 minute 15 seconds, I promise. Even if you wear like 3-pound ankle weights, but you can't tell me that that's not hypertrophy. Okay, so but not every training, not every stimulus has to be a failure. Okay, work to rest ratios for strength adaptation. If I want strength adaptation, we know what the work to rest ratios are related to that. If you actually look at the ISM, it's pretty similar. Okay, if I'm trying to work like maximal strength or strength hypertrophy, I'm going to work for 20 seconds with something under tension, and I'm going to have 2 to 3 times that amount in rest. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do it again. 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 Okay? Same rules apply for physiological adaptation, even in the ISM model. Okay? All that happened in the ISM model was he took our external well of training, the physiological adaptations and the way we know how physiological adaptation works. He didn't violate those rules. Those rules still exist. The stuff they got this from, Those rules still exist. The science of physiological adaptation is still the same. If I want endurance, if I want strength, if I want power, those are still the same variables that I'm applying, but I'm applying it from a deep to superficial way. That's what the ISM is. Okay? The terminology is different, but it's very reflective. Okay? Which is why the adaptation of the ISM model can be used multiple ways. Okay? You can apply exactly the model itself with the specific inputs, the way that they have it, that's totally fine. Or you can look at what they're saying in it and understand and adapt it to what we know from physiological adaptation. Okay? So something, if I want to, let's just say, for instance, what are you trying to get adaptations from when you do incline bench?
Just building the upper back, because that's always been an underdeveloped part of my body. It's just
Sure.
flat.
So what's a really good way of doing that with incline bench?
What's a good way of doing that?
Yeah. How would you do, so if you're going to apply the ISM to incline bench, how would you do it?
So lately what I've been doing is breaking it into 3 portions, where there's like the top portion, the middle portion, the bottom portion, and then I find an amount of weight that I can just rep out, and then I fail at about a minute to a minute 15 seconds. So like from here, so I'm like, it's hard to do without it, but so I would be up here, be supporting, I'm just working up here, and then I'm down here, and I'm down here.
Okay.
I'm not on the bench, but yeah.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I'm just copying what Grayson's doing. I'm not even asking him questions.
And some of that is what he's doing, but you're also
Yeah.
not seeing other elements of his training where
And I
he's
know.
taking the thing through the full range of motion, under tension, not losing the tension, okay? EQIs under failure are a really good way of creating hypertrophy, okay? My clients, we do EQI horizontal shoulder adduction. Where literally I have them pull in and they're holding, and as soon as it starts to fail, I tell them to turn their chest a little bit. So we're maintaining the tension point all the way through. So the pec is trying to contract. The arm is failing away, but I'm turning the body away so the tension stays the same on the pec itself. They're smoked at the end of that, okay? That's a good one for a minute, okay? My point is just, ultimately speaking, we can get stronger, but we can't ignore the other physiological adaptations that have to occur. The adaptation of just strength isn't going to carry over to everything.
No doubt.
So, and that's where your biggest opportunity is. You have very little in-range control with a lot of this stuff. You're basically active to passive insufficient almost everywhere. Okay?
Which means that
You have passive range.
so I have the prerequisite, but I don't have the communication.
The tissue's there. The ability to actually take the tissue to that place. No, I mean, I would say just shoulder rotation and hip rotation for sure.
Always.
Yeah.
That's the rules always.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I would say hip external really more so than hip internal right now.
Sure.
Yeah. But like otherwise, like shoulder extension, put your shoulder extension passively. You don't need to look for that. Okay.
So
Hip abduction, fine. Like your hip abduction was great passively, but as soon as I asked you to open that door, it was like I was speaking another language to you.
yeah.
Okay, it was like just open it in the frontal plane. You're like, oh, you mean rotate it? Ooh, just open it. And then as soon as you open it, I mean, it's a massive difference. Yeah, exactly.
Not.
Yeah.
You have to work with.
Well, because what happens if I ask you to open it in the frontal plane without rotating it, you're just stabilizing the rotator at that point. So we have to be able to do both. If you can't do both, then your brakes suck.
So, and where does injury recovery come into this? Because, like, so I'm here, and then that, like, this whole tissue, like, I get pain right there, and then the more I turn it, the more it hurts. So,
Okay.
how do I
Like
just open-
passively as well. If you grab it and turn it that way, does it hurt? Okay, so it sounds to me like we need to. One, you definitely have you have hypermobility in your elbows. Okay, so I would do this from a flexed elbow instead of an extended elbow position. Yeah, that would be the first thing I'd do is I'd work on it there. And two, that would probably be a space I would pails and rails.
Tails and rails is generally the way to work through injuries.
It's it can be.
because This is the last piece for me that it just feels like it's been injured for about 2.5 years, and I've tried to do the things that Moses tells me to do, but I don't work with him directly on it. I kind of go there and we talk like in a classroom setting, and then I go home and work. And
Well, we
it's
had
just
it. We
not
had
getting
it
better.
basically to null when you were in.
Yeah.
When we were consistent, we had it to basically null. I remember.
So then why
was
would it
noted.
come back?
What?
Why would it come back?
Because you're not doing any of the things that we were doing on a regular basis.
True. So it's in,
We were
in your-
inputting hip extension and internal rotation on the regular. Every day you were in here, you were hip internal rotation and extension on the regular. We were training the shit out of it. We were working in range of that. Again, we're talking about in range control. What you're experiencing is when you're getting to in range. You don't have in range control. So I'm not saying I'm the secret sauce, but what we were doing was, okay, the inputs we were doing were, you stopped doing them, it was fine. And when you stopped doing them, the things that were still there came all back. Because
Now,
you weren't
and so-
done on training them.
Okay, that's my question. Is like, why wouldn't it stay?
Because you weren't done on training them.
Is it ever done, or is it that like no matter what I do?
Depends.
always
I mean,
done?
if it took you 20 some odd years to get here, do you think just a few months is going to get you out? We know just first adaptations, both neurological and tissue, just the first adaptations take somewhere between 10 and 14 weeks. Just the first adaptations. So, but then,
that just like knowing a time frame to know how my training should be going. You know,
but remember, so let's say, remember the adaptations that we're looking. When we were working, I had 2 things paired together, and that's it. Okay? Is that all the problems that existed? No.
No.
Okay? Which is why, like, Hunter talks about when he runs his kin stretch. Him and I were talking about that the other day, where it's like, you know, he knows what he's generally dealing with his population. So most everybody in his classes have gone through an FRA with him, so he knows generally what he's dealing with. So ultimately speaking, like when he's teaching kin stretch, he's doing it from a mindset of what those FRAs are telling him. And when we look at it that way, like let's say your shoulder hip's got really terrible internal rotation. Internal rotation is going to be a part of multiple different joint motions. Just because I fix it in extension doesn't mean that it's fixed in abduction. So when we're working adaptations in this space, when I fix internal rotation, in whatever way we're fixing it, whether we're fixing it in abduction, whether we're fixing it in extension, whether we're fixing it in flexion, that doesn't necessarily mean it's also going to be fixed in those other places too.
Right.
So if I'm trying to get an adaptation to occur with hip internal rotation and extension, and that adapts in 14 weeks, well, now I'm going to go start working on hip internal rotation and abduction.
Right.
Guess what? Just restarted my clock. This is what I mean about how this stuff works.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, because then it's going to be a different set of inputs. Internal rotation different. Rails will look different. Rails will look different. Okay? Everything looks different in that regard. So it's just important to remember that, like, we got to do, what did we do? How many months together did we do?
It was about 3. It was 10 sessions.
Yeah.
Over. You know.
Yeah. And so we got to do,
We did 3 months, and then I did the program. I ran it back for like another 3 months.
yeah.
And then
But
I wouldn't
remember,
say I
I
got
wasn't
bored, but
planning
I
on
was
running.
like,
I wasn't planning on
I
running
know,
those
and
things
I
back.
knew that, and I was like, let's just see if I can work, like, chew on this information and move forward, and you know,
Yeah.
it goes exactly how you think that would go.
Right.
Yeah, no,
the plan wasn't to run those same inputs again.
No, and I didn't.
The plan
exactly.
was to reassess,
And that's why I
look at
dropped
where
it.
we're at, and then be able to, okay, now we need to start working on this. Now we need to start working on this. So by that in month mark, we had way less on the hip. I noted it.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, I'm not feeling it nearly as much anymore. It's
Yeah.
still like there a little bit, but it's not there nearly as much. Cool, we're on the right track. And then you were like, cool. Just, again, it's fine.
No, it's
Life happens. But
yeah.
at the end of the day, the reason it all came back is because it took you
thousands of golf swings and running and movements to get there, it wasn't suddenly going to get resolved in 3 months. Okay? I had to tell my.
But it took one karate kick to get there. That's how this injury happened. Was I was like, well, you're right. But I was in the gym. I was like, I'm feeling pretty good. And I went, snack.
Right. I'm not saying. But
You're right.
Yeah.
It was between directions.
Yeah. Always is. It's a
You're right,
waterfall.
you're right.
It's a waterfall on a rock.
And is that probably the reason why my left elbow hurts?
Yeah. Waterfall on a rock. No, waterfall on a rock. Whatever's happening with that elbow. Waterfall on a rock. Okay. The only time, there is only one way that we can ever look at anything and go, that's how it happened. If I took this computer and I slammed straight down on your leg and it broke some shit in your leg, yes, that's what caused it. Trauma. That's it. If it's not trauma, there's no one movement that ever caused it because my response is always going to be the same. What about the time that you did it and it didn't happen? What about all the people who do it and it doesn't happen? It's not the cause. Right? The cause is thousands, tens, and hundreds of thousands of other things. Yes.
So, and just to clarify, so with an injury, do you hails into, like, if it
If
depends on
the
hurts,
level, so-
it hurts as I do this. So would I drive force into this, or would I drive force away from it?
Away from it.
Okay, that clears up my whole life.
Yes. We don't want.
Drive force away from it, and I'm trying to.
And then when you want to go into it,
okay,
we hails ramp. So we do ISO ramping in space, as opposed to going right into max effort fails and right into max effort fails.
And see, and that's what Casey's been trying to help me a little bit with my hamstring. She's trying to get me basically like move into good mornings and hip hinge stuff. And every time I feel like
Why?
I know, but it's hard to have that conversation with your girlfriend, like challenge her like that. She's like, do what I say, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, my question would be why?
Yeah.
What are we trying to adapt? If it hurts when I do that,
That's what I'm saying. It's like
What
the
is
more
that
I move
going to-
into it, it hurts.
what
and
is
so
that
I'm-
going to teach my nervous system?
So I would be wanting to work into hip extension.
Oh no, I would actually just start working knee function at in-range training first. Say, hey, we're gonna go lay down. I'm gonna go lay down on this. I'm gonna go lay down on this prone leg curl machine. I need you to push it as far in as I can get, and I'm gonna contract the shit out of my hamstring, and I'm gonna slowly lower it out as slow as I can. Okay, and start get that tissue to adapt the way you want it to, and then do that. Do that for 4 or 6 weeks, and then after you do that, go, okay, cool. This feels better already. Well, now I'm on the right track. Okay, but then if it doesn't feel better, okay, well, my hamstrings are really fucking strong now. Okay, but I know I need to go work on other shit besides the hamstring. Okay, but that's what it comes down to. Don't forget.